Parliamentary updates.
Over 40 young women participated in a mock parliamentary debate that was the culmination of the Young Women Empowered to Serve Yes leadership program. Hosted by the Women Parliamentarians of Trinidad and Tobago, the Yes program saw the second cohort of the program accessing over 2 months of training that included interacting with officials of the Counter-Trafficking Unit of Trinidad and Tobago and the Ministry of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs to gain valuable insights to aid their debate contributions. The motion for debate was brought by the opposition and asked that the government take urgent steps within the next 6 months to strengthen policies, amend legislation, and improve law enforcement and rehabilitation capabilities to address the issue of human trafficking in Trinidad and Tobago. The mover of the motion was the leader of the opposition and member for Arima, Tahila Paul.
According to the 2024 TIPS report, it has been identified that traffickers are recruiting victims using job openings on social media as well as the newspapers. Therefore, this new group of unemployed people are at risk of being exploited and falling for deception tactics that are disguised as genuine job vacancies. Therefore, Madam Speaker, we need to act now. The government bench may ask us, why now and why within 6 months? However, swiftly developing technologies as well as the mainstream use of artificial intelligence has presented us with changing circumstances. Our traffickers are utilizing new tools to target the vulnerable and the young. Therefore, we need to amend the way that we act.
However, Ms. Paul stressed that the potential victims must be acknowledged and consulted.
So, Madam Speaker, I take this opportunity to amplify the voice of my constituent, the founder of the La Casita Hispanic Cultural Center in Arima. She states that the Venezuelan migrant population that she serves lives in fear of exploitation when seeking jobs, and that mistrust of the protective services is widespread. This has led to hesitance to report cases of exploitation and also to even testify in court. This means that we need to act to protect this vulnerable group, Madam Speaker. So today I defer to the hardworking members of my opposition bench to highlight our holistic, victim-centered recommendations for the amendment of our approach. We should act together and not divided. The issue of human trafficking should never be politicized. So I appeal to the members of the government bench today that a vote in support of this motion is a vote in support of the most vulnerable in society.
The first responder to the motion was the Attorney General and MP for Faizabad, the Honorable Samara Ram.
You see, Madam Speaker, the Leader of Opposition with impressive theatrics has reminded the Honourable House about the dire situation of human trafficking here in Trinidad and Tobago, citing the SDGs we are supposed to abide by, and even citing the scalding human trafficking report that places us on the Tier 2 watch list. However, permit me to read a few words from the motion, as it seems to me the Leader of Opposition has not understood it. And whereas existing legislation, policies and agencies have failed to effectively address the critical issue of human trafficking in Trinidad and Tobago. Failed, Madam Speaker, failed. The Leader of Opposition, in our own words, has admitted that the last 10 years was an abysmal failure, a situation that has festered within the last 10 years due to willful neglect and possibly a chronic allergy to change. What is even more laughable, the Leader of Opposition is calling on us, the government, to take urgent steps within the next 6 months. 6 months, Madam Speaker. 6 months suggests to me a blissful ignorance of the legislative process, but I digress. We will be the government that you have failed to be.
Member Ram spoke about some of her government's plans on the issue.
Firstly, we intend to amend the laws to reflect our international undertakings, as we are a ratified party to a number of important United Nations conventions. For example, firstly, imagine you are a migrant child and you are denied a place of education here in our school system. Well, Madam Speaker, this is the reality for over 2,000 migrant children. And to this I say, had we been compliant with the United Nations Conventions on the Right of the Child, no child will be denied a right to education. And therefore, we intend to amend the Education Act to ensure a migrant child's place here in our school system, of which will be advanced by the Minister of Education. Additionally, Madam Speaker, Trinidad and Tobago, as a ratified party to the 1951 Refugee Convention, it is shameful that within the past decade we have not included the definition of a refugee within our local laws. Madam Speaker, no definition means no identity, and no identity means no human rights. And to this end, we intend to amend the Immigration Act to include the internationally recognized standard and definition of a refugee, to be advanced by the Minister of Immigrant Affairs.
And in her fiery contribution, the Minister of National Security and MP for Point Fortin, the Honourable Chalista Rochford, laid out her plans for her ministry.
Madam Speaker, that brings me to the first problem, and permit me to quote with your leave. According to the U.S. Department of State's 2024 Trafficking in Persons report, corruption and official complicity in trafficking crimes by some in the police and national security services, including at more senior levels. Madam Speaker, therefore, this calls for rectification, and therefore, we would be dispersing officers at every cardinal point in Trinidad and Tobago. There would be a 24-hour shift system. It means that we would always have men on the ground. There would be nowhere to run. There would be nowhere to hide. Madam Speaker, they are going to be specially trained and specially selected, and they are going to be tasked with an aim, and that aim is to investigate corruption in relation to human trafficking, secure and rescue victims. And Madam Speaker, when we rescue these victims, we are going to be working in collaboration with the Minister of Social Development to place these victims in shelters, and our own specially selected and trained officers are going to secure those shelters, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this brings me to my second point. We are going to investigate the assets of these officers. Nobody gets away.
The Shadow Minister of National Security and MP for Trin City, Felicia Ramuta, fired back.
With over 30 official ports of entry and dozens of unofficial landing sites, it's our coastlines that remains dangerously porous. Because of this, Madam Speaker, I urgently think we should expand our radar systems, deploy our unmanned aerial vehicles, and increase our Coast Guard patrols. Our immigration officers, as well at high-risk areas such as our airports, must also receive targeted training, as well as regional cooperation through agencies such as CARICOM Impacts. Madam Speaker, border control alone is not enough, because once inside our country, victims are moved through our highways, our ferries, and other transportation networks. Why? Because there is no coordinated system in place to identify these suspicious activities. Thus, Madam Speaker, I propose the immediate rollout of a national transit security protocol supported by mobile unit enforcement and digital watch lists.
The MP for Tunapuna and Minister of Immigrant Affairs, Karina Nanan, responded to the member for Trin City.
Madam Speaker, we are here to now bring to you why granting refugees protection is important. You see, the Honourable Member for Trin City would have said the lack of support for CTU. I am here to also include that our interagency ministries will sign an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding, through the Ministry of National Security, the Ministry of Civil Aviation and Transportation, and key ministries along this government bench. We are here to support this motion, but it is only going to be possible with the advocacy of time. You see, members of this Honourable House, refugees are not defined in our Immigration Act. Let us be real about it. We have so many members and different nationalities coming to our shores. We are very aware of the migrant crisis that exists right by our regional neighbors, Venezuela.
And the last contributor to the debate before the wind-up was the Prime Minister and member for Siparia, the Honourable Cheyenne Wade.
This is a silent war waged against our women, our children, our migrant communities. And after 10 years under your leadership, we remain in Tier 2, which simply says that the opposition did not do enough. So I am standing here, united across ministries, to say that enough is enough and meaningful change will now be made. 80% of identified trafficking victims are migrant women, primarily Venezuelan. 1 in every 3 victims is a child. 90% of these cases are sexual exploitation, and this is happening under our noses. My ministers have been working across every sector to confront this crisis head-on. My Attorney General advancing key legal reforms, amending the Trafficking in Persons Act, introducing online judicial warrants, and cracking down on law enforcement complicity, because corruption will not be tolerated under our ranks.
The Prime Minister said her government intended to support the motion, but the timeline was unrealistic.
Through comprehensive assessment done by my government, Madam Speaker, I know that we can support this motion, but let me be clear, 6 months is risking fragmented efforts and shallow impact. This time, this 9 months that we are talking about that my ministers need, this is not for delay, it is for depth. It is to ensure that we act forcefully, that we act decisively, and that we act efficiently. To the nation, when you silence a woman, you are not just silencing her, you are silencing generations. A mother's lullaby, a teacher's voice, and a leader's strength. Human trafficking is a national emergency, fracturing families, shattering communities. So yes, this government is acting now, but change will not be seen unless we stand as a united front, because this is not somebody else's daughter, this is Trinidad and Tobago's daughter.
The Parliament channel spoke with some of the participants after the debate.
Well, you know, our first-time experience, it was definitely nerve-wracking, and I know a lot of the girls on the government were a bit nervous, but as I was the last speaker, being able to hear everybody else give their contributions, and everybody was speaking so confidently and so impactfully, it definitely made it a lot easier for me to contribute. The ideas from all the girls were fantastic, and I am beyond proud of every single member of Cohort 2 of the Yes Leadership Program, because they all did exceptionally well today. Well, the motion brought forward was to take urgent steps within 6 months, essentially to curb human trafficking in Trinidad and Tobago. Of course, we voted for the motion. Our only issue was with the time frame, because, of course, to amend legislation and enact policies does take a little while. You know, so my stance is this is definitely a plaguing situation in Trinidad and Tobago, and we do believe that urgent steps need to be taken right now. And even though we mightn't get everything done in 6 months, we're hoping that our government gets it done as soon as possible, so we could be the voice for the voiceless, because human trafficking is targeting those who cannot speak up for themselves.
Today was surreal. It's much better than anything I could have ever imagined. I think I had a unique position, whereas today I wasn't just arguing the motion for myself, but I was leading a team as well. So it was a beautiful experience to see that there was continuity with our argument, and there was a holistic approach, a multi-sectoral approach. It was really beautiful to witness it in motion. I'm in agreement with the motion that there needs to be swift changes within the next 6 months. Within my own research on the current legislation and the rehabilitation capabilities in Trinidad and Tobago, I realized that we have the laws on paper, but the enforceability is the issue. I would have done a lot of interviews in preparation with police officers, members that have founded and led NGOs in support of migrant groups, and it seems to be the same issues with regards to enforceability. And there's some other issues that we didn't uncover in the debate today, issues where migrants are turned away from police stations, unable to make reports of exploitation. Xenophobia is a major issue within Trinidad and Tobago, and it really impacts migrants' experience with our protective services.
Well, the training was definitely intense, but intense in a beautiful way, because we got to learn about parliamentary practice and procedure, and I even had one-on-one sessions with the former Speaker of the House, Mrs. Bridget Anisette George, and she would have taken the time to prepare me for the role today. So the training was intense, but excellent. I would do this 10 times over because I learned a lot. I joked with a lot of the members today and said, wow, you all behaved really well. I think the members behaved excellently. I had to use standing orders here and there, but it wasn't anything drastic or anything like the members being disrespectful, but reading and sometimes not referring to members by their correct portfolio. But apart from that, the members were excellent today. They did excellent contributions, and I think they really brought to light that topic of human trafficking.
Well, today it was a truly remarkable experience because we were able to really be the administrators of the house itself. So we had to be on par rather with our standing orders, observing the members, ensuring that everyone was speaking on the theme itself, ensuring that the order was kept, that the content of the debate was relative to the motion being present or trying to be passed, and the experience itself was quite eye-opening because you were able to just, even though we weren't debating, we were still a part of this, august body and this esteemed discussion that we had today. The training was actually very beneficial. I learned a lot about human trafficking, having just a general knowledge and doing some studies from my own personal study as well, but learning a lot more about the personal and the lived experiences of migrants, of women in Trinidad and Tobago and girls, and it really made me for lack of a better term, encouraged to share that knowledge with other persons, to have them be more aware of human trafficking, how easy and how susceptible we are, especially as women and young women. So I used the knowledge immediately to share it with my family, I shared it with my friends, things that you can look out for, signs that you can look out for in trafficking. And I think it really shaped me and prepared me for today's debate, making me a lot more knowledgeable and a lot more appreciative of the discourse that we had today.
Honestly, today was way too short. I really enjoyed listening to everyone and their contributions about the topic that we discussed, which was human trafficking. I think the women here had such fantastic ideas of legislation and policies and programs that can be implemented in our actual country of Trinidad and Tobago. And I'm really excited to see whether the change makers, the persons who are in this House of Representatives, implement anything we discussed today. In the role of Deputy Speaker, you had to be familiar with the standing orders of the House. And that's really important because you want to ensure that the debate is constructive amongst everyone here. Non-parliamentary language is being used, people are being relevant to the topic discussed, and that persons know the content of what they're presenting. Because one of the standing orders is actually that you can't excessively read from your material because persons can possibly reference a speech that was generated by AI, and you want to ensure that the persons are contributing from their heart and the issues that are really facing us. Like the title of the program says, yes, the Yes Leadership program is very beneficial. I've seen some of my fellow colleagues grow in their confidence, their speaking abilities, and for me personally, it's enhanced my interest in being involved in politics, and I think we need more representation of women in our House of Representatives because right now the percentage worldwide is around 23%. So I think women have such fantastic ideas. I'm not too sure if you know that a woman was actually responsible for the technology that was used as the genesis of Wi-Fi. Everybody needs Wi-Fi. Speaking for myself at least, everybody needs Wi-Fi, and it just goes to show that women have really fantastic ideas, and I hope that more women join the program and are actually genuinely interested in being involved in politics.
After the debate, participants were hosted at a reception at the Rotunda Gallery where they received their certificates of participation and interacted with former and current parliamentarians. Stay tuned for more parliamentary updates. For more information, visit our website at www.ttparliament.org and follow us on Facebook, YouTube, X, and Instagram.
Parliamentary updates.